Hello and welcome to the Royal Blue podcast. It's Wednesday, we are live, and I am your host, Ian Croll. Joining me on the Royal Blue podcast today to talk all things Everton ahead of tonight's Merseyside Derby, we've got Connor O'Neill. Connor, how are the nerves? All good?
They're actually okay, yeah. I haven't really got any, which is maybe a bit strange, maybe a bit miffed and a bit, suspicious why I don't have any nerves. But yeah, I don't really have any. I mean, I have to say I'm not a big fan of Derby Day. I'm not a big fan of Merseyside derbies. I think even growing up as a kid, I absolutely hated them. But yeah, as we sit here now, there isn't really any nerves. So yeah,
It, it,
we'll see what unfolds.
Interesting that you say that because I've asked that same question to probably about 4 or 5 different Blues late last night and this morning, and they've said the exact same thing as you. So I don't know whether that means the pressure is off us and the pressure is more on Liverpool, because I've spoken to a couple of Reds and they've kind of had the opposite opinion. They've had the opposite mindset where it's almost like they need to win this game to propel them further forward in the title race. Is that something that you think is the case, or are we just being too
Yeah, I
relaxed
mean,
over it?
no, I mean it's a huge night, isn't it? I mean, we can't underplay how big a night this is. Obviously, it's the Merseyside derby. It's Liverpool coming to Goodison Park. It's obviously got that extra significance this time round because it'll be the last time Liverpool visit Goodison Park for a Merseyside derby. So obviously, it's a huge night. But I think that there probably is more on the line for Liverpool, isn't there? Because if they go 9 points clear tonight, and don't talk about Liverpool too much, but if they do go 9 points clear tonight, that feels like they made a huge step in the title race. And you do fear that it's a long way back for Arsenal if Liverpool go 9 points clear tonight. So there's definitely, I think, more pressure on them than Everton. And obviously, Everton are helped by the fact that they picked up 3 consecutive Premier League victories, which moved them 9 points clear, ironically, of the relegation zones. Obviously, anything they get tonight, I think, is a bonus on what they've done already. And I think, there's still work to be done, but I think people are quite confident, or quietly confident, that Everton will have enough to stay up this season. So I think that they're the 2 big factors. And I also think as well, if we're being brutally honest, Liverpool are better than Everton. And I think, if Liverpool were to win tonight, I don't think many people would be surprised, because Liverpool are better than Everton. You only have to look at the Premier League table to see that Liverpool are better than Everton. So, yeah, I think because of them factors, people probably from an Everton persuasion are a little bit more relaxed than what they might normally be. And certainly probably more relaxed than some Liverpool supporters, because obviously, they long speak, don't they, about the league title being the holy grail, and you do get the feeling that if they do win at Goodison tonight, it's a huge test passed, and it'll move them 9 points clear. And you start to think that they will be winning. They will be winning the title come May.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, we'll come on to it now in more in depth, but I think sometimes as fans, with Liverpool, we put too much pressure on ourselves with regards to trying to get that win over Liverpool. Don't get me wrong, we should be challenging Liverpool, and we should always at least be competitive. Something that maybe, you know, we certainly have in it, certainly with our league position over the past couple of years. But let's face it, Liverpool have been better than us for a while now, and this season they're head and shoulders above everyone else. Certainly so far, that could obviously change in the coming months. But I think we're just very unlucky that our local bitter rivals are, one of the best teams and most successful teams in the country. It's just happens to be the way it is, and that's probably never going to change. So David Moyes spoke about it yesterday in his press conference, that it's his job to try and close the gap. I think he actually used the phrase, bring the across the bridge closer together, whatever. That's not going to certainly happen overnight. He's done it once. He's certainly got close one time. He's been competitive in his first stint. Can he do it again? We obviously certainly hope so, and we'll see where we go. I
Well,
mean,
I think just on that is that's the intriguing thing about tonight, is that for Moyes himself, it's probably a bit of a reality check, because when he left the football club, all them years ago now, and there's a long time ago when he left, after his first spell in charge, there was very little between Everton and Liverpool, wasn't there? Everton finished, under Moyes, Everton finished above Liverpool 3 times, which had been unheard of, long before he come in. So, and when he left, there was very little between the 2 teams. If anything, they kind of were 2 teams who were fighting for kind of 4th to 8th every season. So, he probably knows better, and probably, probably a bit, reality check in terms of how much the gulf has grown in his time away. Obviously, he was away for a long time, but probably he's been a bit taken back by how quick that gulf has become. So big, and in that time he's been away. You think Liverpool won every major trophy there is to win, essentially, compared to Everton, who've for being honest, have gone backwards and have lacked an identity and lacked any sort of kind of cohesive plan. So he'll know best than anyone what it takes to bridge that gap. But I think he'll also be realistic to the point of the gap has grown that significantly that it might never ever close to what it was when he first left the first time round, unless something significant happens. But yeah, I think it's the nostalgia of that is quite sad, isn't it? Really, when I say you look back and when he left the first time, he was very little between the two clubs, and as he prepares to take charge tonight, the gap and the gulf between the two clubs has never been bigger, really, has it? If we're being honest.
No, I mean the most important thing with regards to that, and we're getting really deep into it now, is that although Liverpool have obviously had the better of the derbies, the Goodison derbies has always been one where neither team's really had the better.
Yeah.
I know Liverpool probably have edged it still over the past couple of years. Obviously, we got our first win, I think it was last year, in about 12, 13 years or something like that. But predominantly, they've always been draws. Even Liverpool have struggled to get a run of Goodison Derby wins going over the past couple of years itself. So I think we can be thankful for that. At least Goodison Park has been competitive, and fingers crossed it is just as competitive as tonight, because let's face it, you've already hit the nail on the head. Liverpool, player for player, are without a doubt better than Everton Football Club at this moment in time, and that's just being honest at the end of the day. I mean, today's agenda, obviously, it's going to be predominantly Merseyside Derby. It's the last ever Goodison Park Merseyside Derby, and whatever the outcome, it's obviously going to be historic. Both teams currently sit on 41 wins each in the head-to-head at Goodison Park, so there is a lot riding on it. Obviously, Liverpool have got their, the title race that they're looking at. We're looking at trying to get as many points as possible to survive, but I guess 130 odd years of football bragging rights is on the line tonight. It's historic in itself, Connor.
Yeah, it's going to be a historic occasion, isn't it? The whole thing about tonight is going to be historic. The last one, like you say there, it's quite fitting, isn't it? That 41 wins apiece at Goodison. Who's going to take that title tonight? So yeah, it's going to be a historic night all around, and I think as well it's quite interesting, isn't it? Because I didn't actually think about this until I saw something on social media this morning. And this is probably the last midweek game that Goodison will play host to Premier League. First team game, because obviously after tonight it's pretty much weekends all the way, isn't it? I think unless one of them games gets moved to a Monday night.
Unless the last game, the last home game gets moved, which I'm praying for. By the way, it can't be a Sunday afternoon or even a late Sunday evening kickoff, because it'll be May and it'll be light. It's for me, I don't know what the TV executives are thinking, but it's got to be Goodison Park under the lights for me for that last game. But sorry,
yeah, you'd like to hope so, wouldn't you? But obviously, there's no guarantee of that. So tonight could be the last time that we all walk down Goodison Road in the dark, and we all watched heading in the floodlights, and I think I think it's hitting home now, isn't it? I think that's the biggest thing of all this. It's hitting home now that we are on the final straight here of Goodison's farewell. Obviously, helped by the fact, or aided by the fact, that people can now buy season tickets for the new grounds. Obviously, you got yours, didn't you, quite recently? So that fact that we're all people are already planning for next season, and I know people I know go to the game already, kind of plotting their routes and how they're going to get to Bramley Moor Dock and what pubs they might be going to before, afterwards, and stuff like that. So I think it's becoming very real now, and I think that's why tonight is such a historic occasion. And I think it's something that everyone there will remember, regardless of the outcome. Will remember what happens for years to come, because I think it'll be quite fitting. You hope it'll be a fitting way in it, which Everton finish with a win. But yeah, I think it should be an all-round kind of historic occasion, and one for the ages.
Well, it certainly will be if we win anyway. I mean, predominantly going to be discussing Liverpool, Merseyside Derby, Connor, but me and you haven't been on a pod for a good couple of days, and we haven't. I'd like to just discuss Bournemouth and that defeat, because it kind of coincides with obviously moving into the Liverpool game as well. Before we do that, just there is a couple of people on the stream now, so give this video a thumbs up, drop us a like, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Support is greatly appreciated. I can see that there is a couple of comments coming in, so I'll read them out as and when I can, and if they fit in nicely to kind of what we're talking about. I mean, you can see as well that me and Connor aren't in the Royal Blue studio, which I do apologise for, but this was the only way that we were able to bring the show today. Busy evening, obviously, with the game and stuff like that, so we are doing this from home. But yeah, we are live and get involved in the podcast. Connor, final word on Bournemouth. I mean, it's not our final word, but it's because it's our first word, because we haven't spoke about it. Me and you personally, I was obviously extremely disappointed. I think Bournemouth, it was always going to be a tough game. Really good first half for them, poor for us, and few defensive mistakes. Second half, obviously, we picked up a little bit, hitting the post 3 times. Very unlucky to not at least get back into the game and draw level and then see where we got from there. But at the end of the day, it just wasn't our day. And, I don't really know what else to say other than it was never going to go in for us on Saturday.
Tale of two halves, wasn't it? Unfortunately, I thought first half we were second best. We were, Bournemouth were absolutely outstanding. I think they exposed every flaw that we've got, in terms of press and, defensive mistakes and stuff like that. Obviously they pounced on everything, didn't they? Scored, 2 goals, which I think they are preventable, aren't they? I think the first one is probably offside, if we're being honest. I think, not really been said, but I think if
Has it been confirmed that? Has it been confirmed whether it was offside?
I don't think it has, but replays seem to suggest that he was offside in the build-up, and you do wonder whether, VAR, if it was a Premier League match, VAR would have, maybe chalked that one off. It doesn't go that way, but then there's no excuses for Tarkowski's kind of clumsy late tackle. Obviously, then Tarkowski makes a mistake for the second goal, doesn't he? Tries to play off from the back with a kind of lofted ball to Mikalenko on the left. It gets cut out. Everton don't clear, but Jefferson pounces and makes it 2-0. And you sat there at half time thinking, my word, there's a long way back here, and it's going to, you just got to hope that Everton don't crumble and they can show a bit of fight. And I think that was not the promising thing, but that was one of the positives, was the way they did come up in the second half. I know some people might say, well, yeah, but Bournemouth took the foot off the gas, 2-0 up. They had nothing. They knew that they were kind of they had one foot in the 5th round already. But we did pepper their goal. We did hit the post 3 times, one off the line. It just didn't go in. It was just one of them days. But yeah, I think that the positive was how we did fight back in the second half, and we did kind of pepper the Bournemouth goal. And on another day, it could have been a different story, couldn't it? And I certainly think as well, maybe Alcaraz's free kick goes in, especially. I think that gives everyone a lift with 20 minutes to go, and you would have fancied Everton to maybe get an equaliser and force extra time, etc. So it just wasn't to be, but it's disappointing because I think we would have all loved a day out at Wembley, wouldn't we, in April or May for the final. So I think it's disappointing in that aspect, and it would have been nice to leave Goodison with a trophy and add something to the silverware as we prepare to move ground. So yeah, it's disappointing, but I think there was some positives to take in the sense that we did fight back second half, we did pepper the Bournemouth goal. It just didn't go in, and you just got to hope now that tonight we play like we did in the second half and certainly don't start like we did in the first half, because one thing is for sure, if Everton play like anywhere like they did in that first half on Saturday, they will get well and truly beaten tonight.
Our most frustrating thing for me, obviously the defeat in itself, but the draws just completely opened up. Some big teams gone, and let's face it, I know City, United are still in there, but they're beatable the way they're playing at this moment in time.
I mean, I said that myself. It kind of hit home, didn't it, Sunday night, when you look at Liverpool went out to Plymouth, and you look at the teams who are in the draw, and you think obviously City will be overwhelmed.
Like Villa are the favourites, one of the favourites. You'd have to say no.
City the favourites aren't in Villa, and because United, also Newcastle. Then I think United it is. But I said it in the office on Monday. Even if we were looking ahead to the draw, if we were in the office on Monday and Everton beat Bournemouth, if we were looking towards the draw, you would have fancied Everton taking City or United at home and in the crowd and beating them. you would have fancied chances, and I said Newcastle, and Bournemouth would have fancied the chances of getting either of them to a home because we've seen this season that neither of them clubs have been up fire on all cylinders. I don't think Villa have been that great either. I don't think they were that great when it comes to Goodison the other week.
So they look good against Tottenham, though, to be fair. I did watch that.
Tottenham aren't great though, are they? It was a Tottenham team that's in disarray. But it just shows us that, the fact that we're talking about all these teams shows that, this could be the year where there is a new name on the FA Cup, essentially. And it's just disappointing that Everton aren't in that mix because you would have liked to have hoped that we could have, give ourselves the best possible chance of getting, some much needed silverware.
Kind of moving on a little bit. I haven't spoken to him, but Gav Buckland on Friday's podcast, I don't know if you watched it, but I feel like he's jinxed us because he basically suggested that as long as Everton's defence holds up, that we'll be fine. And lo and behold, a day later, Everton's defence did not hold up. So I'm going to shout at him next time I see him. But yeah, I just found it ironic because we have... I know we've conceded against Spurs, but let's face it, we haven't been leaking the goals in any way, shape or form under Moyes. But obviously, the first half against Bournemouth was probably the first time where you thought disappointing there that we've conceded the goals the way we've done. And I don't want to particularly pinpoint one player. We will, we can talk about him and stuff like that. But let's face it, the mistakes came from James Tarkowski. The penalty, it was a clear penalty. I don't know what he's thinking. And then he makes a mistake in his distribution for the second goal as well. But yeah, I think Gav was actually spot on. Although he jinxed us, he was actually spot on. I think the big plus this season has obviously been Everton's defence and clean sheets and making sure we don't concede too many goals and we just go and concede 2 in the first half against Bournemouth. It was again frustrating.
Yeah, it was. I think again that's what makes it worse, isn't it? Because it wasn't like Bournemouth carved Everton up, was it? And
Exactly.
played. I thought Bournemouth were good first half. I have to say, I think they're a very well coached team. They've got a very clear idea of what they want to do and how they want to do it, and they're very good at that. But yeah, I just thought it was disappointing, wasn't it, to concede the manner in which we did. And I think as well the best thing was the second goal when that come just before half time, because first half we weren't great. But you are thinking if you can just get in now 1-0 down, regroup. Maybe make a few tweaks here and there. No reason why we can't get back into this in the second half and win the tie. But to go in 2-0 down just gives you a mountain to climb, doesn't it? And all of a sudden, you've got to score 3. And I know Everton started scoring goals under David Moyes, but we're still not prolific, are we, front of goal if we're being honest. And but then ironically, we could have scored 4 or 5. If it wasn't for the post and Semedo off the line. So yeah, I think it's interesting, isn't it, in that sense that. We did get back into the game, but it was just also so disappointing because it was just the manner in which we conceded and the times in which we conceded was just, so deflating. And, it was an afternoon to forget, really, wasn't it? It was just an afternoon where everything that could have went wrong really did go wrong.
Just read out a couple of comments in case a lot more come through and I start missing them off. So Danny Church just says, it's going to be emotional tonight, last derby, last ever even game. My nerves are kicking in now. Gravison says, I worry about the selective memories of many Everton fans. In his last stint at the club, Moyes won 3 derby games from 22 attempts, not away. It worries me, his shocking record in big games. I mean, I guess that is a bit of a concern, isn't it? We haven't got a manager who, willy-nilly has beaten Liverpool over the last couple of years. He has won games, don't get me wrong, but he certainly lost a lot more than he's won.
Yeah, but how many managers have beating Liverpool regular?
No, exactly.
But there's 8 years. I mean, you forget that they had an absolutely unbelievable home record for so long, didn't they? And, they were being so prolific. So I get where he's coming from, and I know that was something that was said, wasn't it, when Moyes came back about his record against the big 4 or the big 6 was never great, was it? And we never managed to beat any of them away from home and stuff like that, but. One thing I think David Moyes has done, and maybe this is a little bit premature to say this, but in the opening games I have seen, in say the Tottenham and the Leicester's, make that bit of Goodison fortress on the front foot. And if Everton get back to doing that, they won't be in the problem that they won't be in the positions that they've been in recent years. Because you look at even this season alone, how many teams have come to Goodison and picked up points? Who's expect us to beat Brentford, Fulham. Forest turned us over. There's teams there who you'd expect us to, be taking points off, not them to be taking points off us. So I get that, but I think the position Everton find themselves in, I wouldn't worry too much toppling the top 4 away from home just yet, because I think this is a long process and we've got to go on a few more bumps and rides before we get to worry about that.
Absolutely, and again, that just in terms of...
I think as well, also, it's a different mindset as well, isn't it? Because that used to be spoken about in terms of we'll never get the top 4 because we never beat the top 4 away. And the only way to get the top 4 is if we're going to take points off the teams in the top 4. And that was a very true reflection of the position Everton found themselves in towards the end of Moyes' first tenure at the football club. They were a top 6 team pushing to try and break that top 4 again. But it was obviously a sticking point was like, well, we never beat the top 4 away. So, you can't expect to get in there if you can't beat them away. You've got to take points off them. But now, let's face it, Everton's supposed to be delighted if we're just next season playing Premier League football. Top 4, top 6, top 8 finishes, a distant dream right now. So I think, while I understand that argument, I think it was a totally different world and a totally different time, and Everton in a totally different position to where they were all them years ago.
No, absolutely. That's what I said before. It comes down to expectation, and unfortunately, our local rivals are one of the biggest, most successful teams in England. At the end of the day, we've got a comment. Yeah, in the world. We've got a comment from Tazul Islam on Carlos Alcaraz, and he was the next point on the agenda. So Tazul says the game has come too soon for Alcaraz. To be fair, if he had played a couple of games already, it would make more sense to start him. I mean, interesting, Connor, because he did have a promising first appearance off the bench on Saturday against Bournemouth. He obviously hit the post with a stunning free kick. I mean, like you said, if that had gone in, I think that would have been the catalyst for a potential comeback. But he didn't just do that. He played well. He looks to carry the ball technically. He looks really gifted. He can pass it as well. And Moyes did say he deserved a starting place in the lineup. I think his words are something along the lines as, quote, he's done enough by his performance to start the game. Whether I do that is another thing. The decision will be made tomorrow, as in today. I've never really... I'm not saying Moyes is giving his team away there, because I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't pick him, but I've never heard Moyes speak so candidly about a player to say, well, yeah, he deserves his place in that team. I know that means nothing. He could still have Carlos Alcaraz on the bench. But yeah, I just found it quite refreshing, to be honest, and really interesting that he would go as far as to say a brand new player like that just coming in saying, yeah, he deserves his place already.
Yeah, but I think this is the refreshing, honest approach of David Moyes, and something that we've seen since he first come to back to the football club. I mean, obviously, understandably, a lot of people don't monitor managers' press conferences like myself, Chris Beasley, and Joe Thomas do at the Echo, because we watch everyone and we take a keen interest in what David Moyes has to say. But yeah, I think it's interesting because I kind of felt on Saturday after the game, I was impressed with him. I thought he'd done really well when he came off the bench. But my lingering fear was that if you play him on tonight, Wednesday, if things aren't going well and we're struggling, Moyes doesn't really have a plan B to turn to, because you look at I looked at the bench, the options on Saturday, and it was quite telling, wasn't it? With 10 minutes to go, Michael Keane comes on up front because we needed a goal, and he was the best person on that bench. You might get us a goal if he gets a chance, and we can't forget he's a centre back. So I thought that was quite telling, but I think. And that made me think, will Moyes just stick with what he's kind of known so far, because he maybe wants to think, actually, I kind of need something up my sleeve here if it's not going well on Wednesday night, or, if we're one down with 20 minutes to go, and we're looking to change the game, we can bring him on and see if he can inject a little bit of pace, bit of energy, bit of dynamism. Having seen that quote, though, I do now wonder whether Moyes is thinking, actually, you know what, forget that. Let's put him on from the start and let's try and get on the front foot. Try and get ourselves ahead and try and carry and give us something to almost hold on to and go the opposite way almost. So yeah, I was a little bit but I was a little bit intrigued when I saw that quote myself, because I did think that kind of debunks my theory on what I thought might have been the case. in terms of going the other way, maybe put him on a bench because things aren't going our way. We need a way to change it. That makes me think he could start tonight, and he could it's almost like Moyes saying, like, we're going to take the game to these, we're going to have enough from foot, and we're going to try and get ourselves something to hold on to. If he does that, that's a very different approach to what we've seen under Sean Dyche, where, it was very much we start with a point, we want to end the game with a point. So yeah, I was surprised when I read that comment, and it did make me think twice about what I thought David Moyes might do with Carlos Alcaraz tonight.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think if he does pick him, I mean, we'll come on to it if he does pick him and who does he replace. But if he actually does pick him, I think it's a bit of a statement of intent. I just think he needs to work out how we're going to play, because we're not really going to dominate possession, and you would expect Alcaraz to be one of the players who'd want to get on the ball and pass it around a little bit. So I've got no problem with Decore starting over Alcaraz. It's quite clearly, if Decore starts in the number 10 position, we're not going to dominate possession. We're going to obviously sit back a little bit and play off the second balls and kind of play the percentages a little bit. I think that's only natural against a team like Liverpool. They're obviously going to try and dominate possession.
But we're in that, though, sorry to put in, we're in that. My worry tonight is that, given how good Van Dijk and Konate have been this season, I think we'd struggle to play off the second balls if we went direct, because I think it'd be almost like, feet up time for them. I don't think, I know it sounds really bad, but having watched Beto struggle the way he did on Saturday, I struggle to see how he gives Van Dijk a game tonight, if I'm being honest, if he plays like the way he did on Saturday, especially if we're forced into going long, direct, and playing off second balls and flick-ons with Decore. So I do wonder whether Alcaraz plays because we want to do something different, and he maybe Moyes thinks actually we're going to try and get the ball into Alcaraz and get him running at Konate and Van Dijk and try and pin them and put them under pressure that way, rather than kind of, because if we play, we've got to be honest, I mean, if we play Decore, we're playing long ball. Like, if Decore plays off in the 10 off Beto, we're going long, and it's, like you say, second balls into flick-ons, which I think is just playing into Liverpool's hands in terms of how good Van Dijk and Konate have been. And I just wonder whether Moyes thinks, actually, what, we're going to try and play through the lines a little bit, get Alcaraz on the ball, get him running at Liverpool's back four, and just get Beto preoccupying Van Dijk and Konate to maybe free up some space for Alcaraz and try and do something different, rather than just playing to Liverpool's hands. Because I think the problem is, if we play the core, we end up going, like say, long. We're just going to give the ball back to Liverpool, and like we've seen before, they just use it so well that eventually it tells. So you've got to be able to do something different, and I think we've got to be able to carve out openings. And I think the best way to maybe carve out openings is playing Alcaraz off Beto and trying to get him on the ball and get him running Liverpool's back four.
No, I think you're spot on. And another player, I mean, you've mentioned it in so many words there, that it'll help, is Beto. I think Beto is going to struggle if we do try to go long and, like you say, play off those second balls, because he's not going to be able to hold it up. He might win a couple of headers.
He's not going to win any battle against Van Dijk, is he? If he plays in the way he has been for large parts of the season, he's not going to trouble Van Dijk, is he? I know that sounds really harsh, but that's the reality. He's not going to trouble Van Dijk.
Yeah, I mean, I say it's a statement of intent, but I think the way we've just been talking about it there, logically, it should be the most logical tactical decision that he could probably make. But I still understand why. I'll still understand why if he does go with Decore. I mean, I feel like he's talking himself into it, Moyes. He keeps talking about how Alcaraz has got this Premier League experience already. He's played for Southampton so many times. He's scored so many goals. I feel like he's talking himself into this is actually the best decision. My only issue is, would he? I don't think he'd do this. Would it be a direct replacement for Decore, in the sense that Decore wouldn't keep his place and drop deep? It would just be Alcaraz in for Decore. Do you think that's how it would play out?
I would like to think so. Yeah, I wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't see Decore.
I don't think Decore gets the nod over James Garner or just Garner Gay, does he, in one of them two midfield positions? And I don't see where else you could put him if you don't put him in number 10. And I don't see where else you could put Alcaraz if you don't put him in the number 10. I actually think tonight, to be honest, if Moyes makes one surprising change, I think Jack Harrison might come in for Lindstrom.
Yeah. Do you know what? Well, I'm glad you've said that, because I've got on my notes, in this game, I could potentially, I mean, it might prove me wrong, and I hope he does, but I fear for Lindstrom in this game slightly. in terms of getting bullied a little bit. He's been fantastic since Moyes has come back. Maybe gone off the boil slightly in the last game, which proved Harrison came in and had a major impact, if you want to say that. But this is a Merseyside derby, and although Lindstrom, player for player, is probably better than Harrison, is he going to look for that little bit more hard work? Someone who's maybe a little bit more robust.
I think Mike Harrison might get on tonight is he's more defensive minded, and he will offer more in terms of work rate and getting back. Because I think that depending on what side, say he starts on the right, won't it? Harrison starts on the right. Yeah, because then I play left. Harrison starts on the right. Salah could go on the left at some points. And we've seen Moyes before double up, haven't we? When he was at Everton, he used to famously play Phil Neville at right back and Seamus Coleman at right wing. Didn't he? When he used to play Gareth Bale, come against Gareth Bale, because he used to double up and almost double defend them because of how how good his threat is. You wonder whether they'd be thinking about doing something similar tonight against Salah. So yeah, I think the surprising change tonight for some people, because obviously Harrison's not been in great form, in recent months. Could be Harrison in for Lindstrom. I think just that the more defensive, solidity and the hard work that I think he'll offer in terms of a defensive point of view. So I think that could be the surprising change tonight, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I still think I'm confident Lindstrom could still work and do a job. I think he's, since the tactical change of where he's kind of been playing as a makeshift right wing back with obviously O'Brien along that side as well, I think it's worked. I just would Moyes think that playing Alcaraz and Lindstrom, would that be too attacking? So
yeah,
in the sense what you're saying is, okay, I'm going to go attack him.
Well, if you think about it, playing, you play better up top, and then you play a free and behind of Endai, Alcaraz, and Lindstrom. There's not a lot of defensive mindedness there, is there? Yeah. There's not a lot of.
I mean, bringing Harrison in would compensate for that as a defense from a defensive minded view, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think it maybe adds a little bit more balance from a defensive point of view as well. I think on that three. Yeah. So I think that could be one change. I think he certainly looks to me, and then like I say, I wouldn't be against starting Alcaraz. I just thought maybe Moyes might look at it and think, actually, I'd rather have him on the bench and then we got something to bring him on. But
it could be too late by then, though, couldn't it? Whenever you bring him on.
Reading that comment last night, made me think, is he just thinking, we're going to do something totally different and we're going to go for the juggler from the off and we're just going to go for it. We're going to try and get on the front foot and take the game to them. And you know what? If he does do that, fair play to him, because we've been screaming for that, haven't we, for months.
He's got nothing to lose.
And don't get me wrong, it could come back and backfire. And if it does come back and backfire, under no circumstances should David Moyes be criticised, or people should speak out, because we've spent so long, and I'll take it with me and you, but on this podcast, not just me and you, others, about how we were fed up of watching defensive-minded football, how we were fed up with that team. We didn't set up to take the game to opposition. How we were fed up that it was always, play for a point, not play for a win. So when the manager comes in and he does something different in a bid to try and win a football match, it might backfire, but you just got to accept it. You can't have it both ways. So, that's the one thing I do hope tonight. If Moyes does play Alcaraz and he does try and go from the off and do something different, and it could blow up on his face and he could be well and truly stuffed, so be it. But you can't moan on him. You can't come out and criticise him, because it's hypocritical, given we've spent so long moaning that we were fed up that the manager didn't do that and he was too defensive minded. So yeah, I think Moyes might spring a surprise tonight. I think he might start Alcaraz, and I think Jack Harrison might also got the nod.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's that much of a risk, to be honest. At the end of the day, Alcaraz is clearly a better technical player than Decore. He's a better footballer on the ball.
And that's the other thing is we've been crying out for, is someone in that team who can be a little bit more creative and a little bit more, offer a bit more, something a bit more technical. Obviously, you spoke about Endai playing in there just to put his foot on the ball, and Alcaraz can do that. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be against Alcaraz playing, and certainly that comment from David Moyes makes you think that he's certainly considering putting him in from the off.
Yeah, we've got a comment here about Endai, so I'll come on to that in a sec. Yeah, I just think it's got to be a like for like number 10 replacement. I don't think he can bring Alcaraz in and keep the core in the team by dropping him deep. I think Garner and Idrissa Gana Gay have cemented themselves now in
You
there.
can't.
I
You,
just don't like the core in a deeper line role. He's not technically good enough to keep hold of the ball in the deeper areas for me. He's just not. Whereas if Alcaraz does play as the number 10 and he has to drop deep, then I'd be a lot more confident that he could, bring the ball out and progress the ball forward than the Corey would be able to. So I just don't think it's a risk in the sense that you're bringing in a new player who only made his debut on Saturday, but it's not a risk in the sense that you're bringing in a better player at the end of the day. That's all it is.
and also,
Uh,
like, so be it. Like, just if you think he's good enough and he can offer something that you haven't got in the team already, just put him in. Like, what have you got to lose?
I
Like,
think he's
let's
talked
drop the
himself into
cautious
it.
approach and just go for it.
Yeah, it's not a gung ho approach either. I think what you're saying, it's definitely not that. It's just a different style of approach, and I honestly think he certainly talked me and you into it, but I think he's talked himself into it as
The,
well.
the fact that he openly missed it was the thing that got me,
Yeah, that's what I mean.
because
He's so candid about it.
I think he would, if you were probably going to say the same team, you'd probably just say, "Oh, look, I think it's too early for him, isn't it?" Or we've got to weigh this up. But the way he spoke so openly about it did make me think this could be a possibility. And like I say, look, I wouldn't be against it. And I think if he does play Alcaraz tonight and it's a little bit more expansive and it blows up in his face and we do get beat and we get beat, quite convincingly, no Everton fan should sit there and moan and criticise David Moyes, because, like I say, we've spent so long calling for this type of approach that you can't moan when that type of approach comes.
No, without a doubt. He had a question here from the Blues. Interesting one. He says, I'd put Ndai up front to hold the ball up and win fouls and have Alcaraz in the Ndai role as
See, I
you
just,
on the
I just don't
left.
think Alcaraz. I just don't think Ndai would be able to hold up the ball up against Kanate and Van Dijk. We're
Would Neto
talking.
be able to hold the ball up against Canate and
I
Van
don't
Dijk?
think so. I don't think so. But I just think, that we've got to be honest down here, and I think, like, we're talking about two players tonight in the back for Liverpool who are outstanding and have been outstanding for most of this season. And in Van Dijk, probably one of the best centre halves that football's ever seen. So,
Semi.
but yeah, so I think Beto has to play in the hope that he can maybe ruffle Van Dijk and Canate up in terms of the strength, because obviously, he's a similar size, isn't he? I just, I don't really see, Ndai offering that much as the number 9, I have to say.
Ian Clark says, I will love it if Moyes plays Charlie Jazz in place of the Corey.
You might get his wish.
Yeah, strumming his inner Kevin Keegan there, I think. Right, we've still got plenty more on the derby, but we've got a little bit of time, so I just kind of wanted to touch on the Kevin Thelwell interview that was released by the club yesterday on YouTube. Have you watched it?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, it was a good interview, to be fair. It definitely was a good interview, but he said a lot of things that I think a lot of the fans probably kind of already assumed, certainly from what David Moyes has said previously about transfers and the reasons why the club didn't enter the transfer market for players. We obviously knew that we needed strengthening, but there was mitigating circumstances for not going in the transfer market. And I think I wouldn't say it was unanimously agreed by fans, but I think it was deemed as the most sensible decision considering the upturn in form of the club and the 9 point gap at relegation. Certainly not clear of or safe from relegation. It's a risk, Connor, that we haven't signed anyone without a doubt. I think if there was ever a quick fix needed for a January transfer window, it probably would have been this one. However, pretty much all of our loan allocations were tied up, so it would have meant we would have to spend probably millions of pounds on either a player who was out of form, who was injury prone, or then a player who was maybe we were tracking. We were just going to have to spend. I think Kevin Thelwell even said himself 20 to 25% more on that particular player. So yeah, the interview itself. What did you make of it?
Really good. Good to see open, honest communication from someone, in the hierarchy of the football club. Fans have been craving that for a long time, and we wanting people at a high level to speak out and speak openly and honestly, and that's exactly what Kevin Thelwell done. Thought he made some really good points. Like you say, some points that we kind of probably already knew. I think it was quite interesting, wasn't it, that he openly admitted that it's kind of a miracle that Everton is still a Premier League football club, having had to deal with what they've had to deal with in recent years. So yeah, I thought it was really good. Open honest communications, what we want to say, to what we want more of, and long may it continue. I think it'd be really good if he could do that sort of stuff on a regular basis. Just give him, proper updates on the football matters and why certain decisions were made. And look, on the transfers, I completely agree with what Everton done in the January transfer window. Of course, we need improvements, and it's no secret, is it? And of course, we need additional forward players and stuff like that. But one of the reasons that we've been in the mess that we have is because of erratic transfer spending on, transfer fees and contracts on players who probably weren't good enough or certainly weren't where what we paid for them at that moment in time. So why would you do that? Why would you do that again? You've got to stop the rot. Just stopping the rot is by stop doing the stuff that put you in that position in the first place. So I have absolutely no qualms with what Everton done in January. I think we all know we're in for a hell of a big summer, simply based on the fact of we've got four loan players, four loan players, and it's 12 players out of contract. So people are going to leave the football club. We haven't got a massive squad as it is, so there's going to be a lot of comings and goings. Some of them players who are out of contract are at interesting points in their career in terms of their ages and whether they're probably at the point where it might be 1 year contract extensions, which they might not be willing to, accept, which is understandable. So yeah, we're in for a huge summer, but I thought it was a really good interview, open and honest. And like I say, I 100% agree with the approach the football club took in January, because what is the point in doing stuff that has put you in a terrible position for so long?
And just finally on this point, then I guess, I mean, it's no secret Thelwell's contract is up in the summer. He's still a director of football as we speak. Working in partnership with David Moyes is what we understand it to be. But gut feeling, what do you think? Does Everton retain his services, offer him in a new contract? I mean, we still need to appoint a CEO.
Sorry, you just took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say is it's a difficult call to make because you don't know what the Fredkins' intentions are just yet, do you? Really? They come in, obviously the first big decision they made was to get rid of Sean Dyche. The second big decision they made was to bring back David Moyes. If we're being honest, them two calls seem wholeheartedly justified and vindicated in the last 4 weeks because we've looked at a different team. But we're yet to see in terms of how the board's going to be made up. Like you said, the CEO, what type of role that CEO will have, because obviously at some football clubs, CEOs are very much just kind of business operations and looking after the business side of things, and sport director of football looks after the football side of things. Some CEOs at other clubs are more hands-on in terms of the football running, and will have kind of a say in the role in contract negotiations and transfers. So I think we need to see what the Fredkins' intentions are first, and what their kind of philosophy and their blueprint for Everton is going to be before I think you can make a decision on Kevin Thelwell, because you would then need to work out, where does the director of football, sporting director role fit in within that model, and what does it look like, and what's if we are going to retain the title of sporting director or director of football, what does that role entail? What's their key priority? What's their focus? Will they have a big say on transfers? Will they just be kind of an operational side of things in terms of the academy and coaching structure and stuff like that? So I think deciding on Thelwell is a very difficult thing to do right now, because we don't know what the Fredkin Group's long-term intentions are for Everton Football Club.
I mean, just my personal opinion on it. I feel like it was most definitely the right decision to part ways with Sean Dyche and bring David Moyes in. It just the problem I now see with that is now David Moyes has got to work with Kevin Thelwell, who is the existing director of football. The problem is his contract is up in the summer. So the Freakins might think, well, great, he's done a good job since we've come in, and they might just base it as his future on the past couple of months and offer him a new deal. If not, then obviously that would be, kind of sad for Thelwell. But then if they wanted to bring in a new director of football, I feel like under Moyes, to a point, that the director of football role is almost redundant, because you would trust Moyes more with the new budget that we're going to have, the new spending power that we're going to have in the summer. You're going to trust Moyes with that money rather than over a new director of football. And whoever this, if it is a new director of football, we don't know who it's going to be. We don't know what approach he's going to make. Ideally, in an ideal world, the new director of football would come in. He would look after all of football operations. He would have the idea of how he wants Everton to play. He would probably be the one to bring in the manager himself, but obviously that's not going to happen now because Moyes is the manager. So, like I say, it's almost the director of football position is almost redundant right now, because I trust Moyes more than anyone else to spend that money. I don't know what you think about that.
I get what you're saying. That's what I'm saying. I think it's a difficult thing to sort, because, like I say, I think one of the big issues is that we don't know what the Fredkin Group's philosophy looks like. Do we for what they want Everton to look like? What I would say is, I think, I know people have varied opinions on Kevin Thelwell, but I think it's quite clear that he's been working in some incredibly difficult circumstances and situations, and he'll probably look at it and think he's never really been able to do the job he wants to do, because he's always been fighting, putting fires out and having to agree deals for PSR reasons. And, you look at the players who we've, and he alludes to this himself in his interview, we've lost a lot of very talented footballers, because we had to, because, simple as that is, because we had to sell people, we had to get them off the books. So, there's probably an element for him where he probably thinks, well, a kind of a clean, fresh start this summer, being able to assemble a squad that, you want, along with the manager, is something that he can get behind, and he can have an input in that. So yeah, I think that is one thinking. I just think until we know what the Fredkin Group's intentions are, I think it's a really difficult situation to kind of, analyse, because, like I say, the Fredkins could turn around and say, right, we're appointing a CEO who's got, a football background and is going to be involved in football decisions, in which case, all of a sudden you start thinking, well, hang on, where's the sport director fit in, or director of football fit into this model? Because you've already got a manager who, let's face it, I think David Moyes has his own opinions on football, and I think he's very keen for them opinions to be heard. I think, he always alludes to this, doesn't he, when he talks Moyes about how when he was first down at the football club, him and Bill Kenwright done the transfers. It was as simple as that. He identified the players, he identified who he wanted to bring in, and Kenwright then went away and tried to do deals to bring them players in. It was as simple as that. He probably wouldn't be against that happening again, because obviously, like we always hear, you live and die by recruitment. So he probably wants to think, well, I'll bring the players in, and if it doesn't work out, it's on me. So, there's that element. But I just think, I just maybe think, until we know what the Fredkin Group's intentions are and how they see things from an operational point of view, I think it's a tough kind of situation to analyse, because, we could be sitting here in 4 to 6 weeks with a new CEO's brief means that we don't need a director of football director, sporting director, or director of football. We could get a CEO in who's just business orientated, and their thing is going to be, well, I'm going to look after the business side of it from a financial point of view, and look at how we can commercially get the best deals we can for the new stadium, how we can get the new stadium on the map in terms of additional, revenue streams, i.e. different events that can be held at Bramley Moor Dock. So yeah, and in that case, then you need a football director, football sporting director, because you need someone with a bit of football knowledge and a football brief. So yeah, I think, until we know what the intentions are, until we kind of see them big key positions being filled, it'll be a case of a lot to be seen, and it's more speculation. Everyone's speculating on something that might or might not happen.
Yeah, I mean, like the next big step is the CEO appointment, isn't it? Okay, moving on then. Let's get back to the derby. We've got about 10 minutes left before we got to shoot off. Obviously, Liverpool got beat against Plymouth. Sunday afternoon. I mean, they talk about that they played a weakened team, but if you look at that, you look at that team, Connor, there was it was strong for me from the goalkeeper all the way up to the attack. They talk about how good Kelleher is, and I do rate him, to be fair. So you can't just say, oh, we played a weakened team against Plymouth. I would I go as far as to say that if Van Dijk and Salah don't sign these contracts for Liverpool, which looking likely that they will, I would be a bit worried for Liverpool next season if they were to lose two of those players just on the basis of that defeat for Plymouth. They didn't look like they had a leader. They didn't look really like they had not much of a chance, but they certainly didn't have an idea of how to score any goals. So were you surprised that they fell out of the cup on Sunday?
Yeah, I was surprised, and I thought one or two of the bigger name players who played could have should have done more. I thought Harvey Elliott was quite disappointing. So was Luis Diaz. Chiesa was also disappointing. But I think the flip side, I think where the argument comes in about it's a weakened team is it wasn't the team that was propelled Liverpool to the top of the Premier League table. It wasn't the team that propelled Liverpool to the top of the Champions League standings after the group phase. So I think that's where that element of like the weakened team comes in. But you would still expect a lot more from some of the Liverpool players who did play the weekend, didn't you? Because he still had some experienced lads out, and like I say, except Harvey Elliott and Diaz and Chiesa, you'd expect a lot more from. But tonight will be a totally different game, won't it? Because they'll be bang up for it. They'll be right up for it. And obviously, a lot of the lads who didn't play the weekend, you suspect, will be back in the starting lineup.
Terry Dactyl says, let's not compare that team to tonight's team miles away. And you're spot on.
I do agree with that. Like you said today, didn't you? Salah and Van Dijk alone make a whole big difference to that team, and they'll both play tonight, and they both play on Sunday.
Absolutely. What have you made of Arne Slot this season? I mean, obviously coming off the back of Jurgen Klopp leaving, who had relative success with Liverpool. I mean, I watched his press conference, his pre-Everton press conference, and I'll be honest with you, I feel like at times he was almost quite frightened to say anything negative about Everton, whereas other previous managers have just openly, happily just kind of been quite detrimental things about the club. I mean, we don't have to go into that, but what I mean is like he was talking about Everton as a kind of lower team club, and he was stumbling over his words and trying to find the best words to say it to an extent. Whereas obviously Benitez all those years ago came out and said these small clubs and the way they play, blah blah blah. Slot almost kind of was in my opinion anyway. Just watching it, he was afraid to he was afraid that some of his words were going to be kind of taken out of context, and he just needed to make sure he got his words respectful, I guess, in that way, because I feel like that's what he was trying to be.
Yeah, I think what we made him, I think he's a very slick operator. I think he's done an unbelievable job. A job that, if we're being brutally honest, no one thought he was going to do. I think he was, he's a good manager. Obviously, had a good pedigree from Feyenoord, but I don't think anyone thought he was just going to come in, make no signing, make less than no signings, inherit this team from Jurgen Klopp, and all of a sudden make them, title contenders. And basically, no one thought that City would fall off the cliff the way they have. But Liverpool have been superb, haven't they? He's done a remarkable job. The tweaks he has made have made Liverpool almost a better team at times where they play, and obviously the way they control games more, I think, than what they did under Jurgen Klopp. And I think in terms of his press conferences, I think someone who does watch his press conferences, I think he's very good at kind of ensuring he doesn't say anything that could come back to bite him.
That's exactly what I mean. Yeah, what you
never said, like, even when he talks about like Arsenal and the title race, and he never kind of, he never says, "Oh, it's 1-0," but it's always, he's keen to kind of play it down. And it's all still to play for, and even Man City, he's been very complimentary to Pep and Man City this season, even though they've not been great. So I think he's a very slick operator, and I think he's someone who knows what he's doing. He's got a plan, and I think he's shown himself to be why he's regarded as one of the best coaches in European football.
Ian Clark's made a great comment here, which I've thought about myself. He basically says Martinez did a great job first season after Moyes then turned into drab dross. I mean, Martinez did do a fantastic job in his first season, and I think that was because he took a lot of the good elements of what Moyes had built and kind of brought in his own little tweaks, um, which enabled us to kind of stay defensively solid for that season, as well as have the attacking threat that we had with Lukaku, Barkley, Deulofeu, etc. Obviously, it kind of started to spiral a little bit when he kind of wanted to literally stamp his whole, philosophy on the team. Is is there any danger of that for Slot, do you think? Obviously, they're going to have better players right now and probably going to have better
I
players
think it's going
next
to be
season.
interesting, isn't it? I mean, because obviously Slot he's another one, isn't he? He faces a huge summer because, and he's already said that they're working on bringing players in the summer. They are going to recruit, but he's got 3 of his best players out of contract. One of which in Trent Alexander-Arnold looks like he could be going. If I'm being honest, obviously he's not come out and said he wants to stay as clear as Virgil van Dijk and Mohamed Salah have. So if he loses one of them, let alone 2, you do wonder if, where does that leave him in terms of plans and stuff, and who are they going to look to bring in as well as another one, isn't it? What players can, what type of player they're going to attract, or are they going to go for, the experienced, high profile, cost a lot of money players, or are they going to look for some, hidden gems, untapped European talent that's, not found their way to the big clubs yet. So he's in for a big summer. I think that will shape how his second season goes. Because say Liverpool lost Mohamed Salah, that's a huge blow, isn't it? And how do you even start to to replace him, or where to replace him? So where I think though Slot has been quite clever is the tweaks he's made have actually helped Liverpool. Whereas I think when Martinez in the second season, the tweaks he wanted to make actually hindered Everton, and then he took them back. You think of when he first come in, he kind of kept the defensive stability that David Moyes left, and obviously, helped by getting in 2 midfielders in Gareth Barry and James McCarthy, offered legs and that bit of defensive grind and a bit of steel. And the biggest thing of all was, he went out and got a 20-goal a season centre forwards, something that David Moyes had been craving for the past 6-7 years of his tenure at Everton in Lukaku. So Slot, I think Slot's second season, I think, is always going to be defined by what happens in the summer, because if he manages to keep hold of his best players, you can see Liverpool go from strength to strength, especially if they start recruiting. If he loses Mohamed Salah, that's just a huge blow, and you do wonder how they would look covered, how they even start to replace him.
I think as well, them not signing any players, or virtually, I know they signed Chiesa, didn't they? But limited time in the transfer market in the summer and obviously January has lifted the pressure off him as well, because it's kind of like, well, you haven't really spent any money, so you just kind of managing what you've got, really. I mean, he's managing a fantastic world-class squad. So you would have to say, even the most, not average or decent managers would be able to get a tune out of that Liverpool team. He just seems to be getting a big tune out of that Liverpool team to an extent. We'll finish off then, Connor. We'll do team selection and predictions. We've obviously kind of touched upon what we do with Alcaraz, but I guess one thing that we haven't spoke about is the left back position. Mykolenko was injured over the weekend, but Moyes has kind of suggested that he's back training. I guess it's a bit of a race against time to see if he'll be fit for tonight. But for me, I'd probably, if he is fit, even if he was only like, I don't know, 80% fit, I'd probably still play Mykolenko left back just for that balance over Ashley Young. But yeah, team selection, what would you go with?
Pickford in goal, Jake O'Brien right back, Branthwaite, Tarkowski. If he's fit, Mykolenko left back. Then Idrissa Gana guy, James Garner midfield. I think I would go Jack Harrison over Jesper Lindstrom just for that defensive work rate. And Dijk on the other side. And then I would go Alcaraz and Beto.
I mean, I'm going to sound like a hypocrite here because I did say a fear for Lindstrom in this game, but I would stick with Lindstrom for this game. For the time being, I think it's going back to if we do bring Harrison in, it would be kind of like, well, Lindstrom's not working now, so we'll bring Harrison in, and then in this game, Harrison might not work, so we'll have to bring Lindstrom in for the Crystal Palace game. So mine would be the exact same team as yours. I would keep Lindstrom in there, although I do think that it just depends on whether Moyes is going to go for Alcaraz over the core. He's obviously not going to go going co. So it's going to be an interesting lineup. And fingers crossed, Beto can have a better game than he did against Bournemouth. Because I don't think we just didn't get involved in the game, really, did we? But let's face it, like you said, we don't look like we were going to score loads of goals, but we had 3 hit the bar, 1 cleared off the line. It's not as if we couldn't have won that game. It just didn't seem like it was going to go in for us at all. Predictions?
1-0 Everton.
Wow. I was going to go for a draw. I just think it would be. I'd made up to get a win, but I'd be made up to get a draw as well, because I think it's going to be a tough ask, to be honest. But it is the last game, so maybe we should be a little bit more positive than just saying we're going to get a draw.
I think we'll just edge you.
But
I think it'd be fitting, wouldn't it? Goodison's last derby ending a draw would be quite fitting for how recent derbies of Goodison have played out.
Well, that's just life, isn't it? Sometimes the way it is. I'll go for a win. Sod it. I nearly swore then. I actually nearly swore. I was going to say sod it. Let's actually go for a win. Well, you said 1-0.
Yeah.
I'll go 1-0 as well then. Final thoughts then, I guess. I mean, the impact Goodison, the fans, the 12th man is going to have tonight on the game. Either way, it's going to be special. The atmosphere, you would have thought.
Strap yourself in for a historic night.
Where are you going to be sat? Because you're not in the press box tonight, are you?
I'm in the Lower Gladys Street.
All right, are you? What block? I'm going to be there as well, in the Lower Gladys.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the block is. I need to check, but yeah, Lower Gladys Street tonight. Probably for one last time as well, actually, when I think about it.
Yeah. Well, you're always in the press box these days, Connor, that's it. So you're always working hard, isn't it?
I am, yeah. Some of us have to, work hard every now and then.
Just looking for a couple of other predictions. Ian Clark says 3-1.
That is optimistic. I need swallow then.
Tazul Islam says going for a Navy 1-0. We've got 1-1. The Blues have said this is actually a good one, a good stat. We'll get on to Gav Buckland on this. Says, need Gav Buckland to find out when the last back-to-back derby wins happened. It's interesting, that, isn't it?
Like Goodison and Goodison again.
Well,
there's been a few times, was it when Liverpool have won at Goodison and Anfield?
Yeah, obviously for Everton. Yeah. We'll get on to Gav. On that one. Any final thoughts then, Connor? Or are we all good to go?
No, like I say, I think everyone should strap themselves in for a historic, emotional night at Goodison Park.
Absolutely. Fingers crossed for the win. That is all for today's show. Thanks for joining. This podcast, this YouTube show won't be on the audio platforms. It is just exclusive to the Royal Blue YouTube platform. So give it a like and hit the bell. Subscribe to the channel as well if you haven't already. Most importantly, enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and hopefully we'll enjoy the rest of our day. I've been Ian Croll, joined by Connor O'Neill, and this has been the Royal Blue Podcast.